All right, let's get to this Kyrie story. So I pointed out, I was like the only guy to point out, like, isn't it kind of weird, maybe even a joke, that Kyrie and KD didn't go to the bubble? I always view him as an opportunity. Every year is an opportunity. And I think this is where LeBron is very smart, that the bubble wasn't perfect. He did have to leave his family at home. His team didn't always handle it well. I'm sure he wasn't terribly happy for a long time. And if he came up short, there wouldn't be the excuse of the bubble. I mean, you got Scottie Pippen saying it's not NBA basketball, it's not a hard grind. Like, hey, dude, they got one day off in between all these games. The bubble makes it really easy for me. Like, I don't know. It's easy, hard. It's basketball. You got to win the game. And the other team's trying to win the game. But the Nets and the Warriors have chosen essentially to sit this year out. The Warriors didn't have the chance to play in the bubble. The Nets did and actually played in the playoffs. Then they hired Steve Nash as their coach. This was Kyrie Irving talking about having Kevin Durant on his team.
10 seconds left. 1 point game. Who's shooting? You or Kyrie, KD?
Depends on who's hot. I don't see it as anything other than that. Like 1-3 pick and roll, or it's an ISO for either one of us, or it's something great for our team. One thing I've always been comfortable with is, I felt like I was the best option on every team I played for, down the stretch. This is the first time in my career where I could look down and be like, that can make that shot too.
Right? So, wait. He did play with Jason Tatum, but he also played with LeBron James. And I'm not going to dispute that Kyrie has a better, in terms of pure offensive skill set, than LeBron James. But we would also say that he's not as accomplished as LeBron James, and no one would argue with that. Okay? But that comment isn't the worst of the comments. That one is throwing shade, if you will, at LeBron James. This one, to me, encapsulates exactly what I've been telling you. My friends in the NBA have told me about what it's like to deal with Kyrie on a daily basis. Here's Kyrie Irving talking about Steve Nash as their new head coach.
We don't need somebody to come in and put their coaching philosophy on everything that we're doing and change up the wheel and, you guys need to start doing this. And we start running on the first day of practice. It's just like, no, I don't really see us having a head coach. You know what I mean? Like KD could be a head coach. I could be a head coach.
Jacques Vaughn could do it one day. It's a collaborative effort, I think, on our part.
Yeah. And look, I get the idea of the collaborative effort. Everyone always says that. Right? Every meeting you've ever been in with a new boss that has any idea coming into a situation says, hey, my door is always open. Right? They always say, my door is always open. The NBA says this, where they say they're not owners and employees. We're partners. Now we're partners. Hey, when an NBA team is sold, do the owners share the profits with the players of the sale of the team? Of course they don't. Do you know why? Because they're not actually partners. They didn't outlay the money. They didn't put in the money when they lost. They simply collected, they're W-2 guys. They simply collected a check on the 1st and 15th of every month. And this whole idea of a coaching collaborative effort, that sounds great. But at some point in time, there's one guy that has to say, you're in, you're out. We're running a play for him. It doesn't mean that the ball can't find the open man. It doesn't mean that Kyrie's wrong about who's ever hot or who's ever open or the right play. But the idea that we don't need a head coach, we don't need somebody giving us his philosophy and having us run and do all this stuff. I want to point this out. Okay? Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant have not played a single game together yet. Not one. Not even a minute. And you're already hearing Kyrie Irving going, we don't really need some coach. We don't really need a head coach. He could be a head coach. I could be a head coach. Anybody could be a head coach. Doc Vaughn could be a head coach. He could be a head coach. No, that's not actually the way it works. There's the head coach. There's everybody else. Right? And this is the problem. This is why LeBron was right to want to get rid of him. I should point out, regular season, they weren't as good, but we should also realize with lesser talent, the Cleveland Cavaliers got right back to the finals right after trading Kyrie Irving. Didn't they? Okay. The Boston Celtics went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then they get Kyrie Irving. They lose in the second round. Then Then Kyrie Irving signs with the Brooklyn Nets. Did they go to the Eastern Conference Finals this year? I believe they did. Is Kemba Walker as talented a player at this point in his career as Kyrie Irving is at this? No, not close. Not close. Can you get along with others? Can you take coaching? Kyrie Irving 2 years ago in the playoffs when he's playing for the Boston Celtics, they established a defensive scheme against the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs, and under no uncertain circumstances was he supposed to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then you look at the end of shot clock, she's like, man, Kyrie is guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo. Why is that? Because Kyrie won't listen, is uncoachable. This is a guy who is smart enough, but not really, really intelligent. The really smart guys know enough to know what they don't know. And he doesn't. He thinks he knows everything. I need some coaching philosophy. Collaborative. I could be a head coach. He could be a head coach. He could be a head coach. He could be a head coach. LeBron is brilliant. Okay, LeBron, look, I'm not saying he's easy to coach. He's not. And I'm sure that a little bit of Kyrie pushing back is the pushing back on David Blatt, who, as an Israeli coach, came over with his philosophies and his game plan and probably ran him early and tried to throw his weight around. I'm the head coach, and that didn't work either. But the idea that a guy like, man, I don't need a head coach. Do you know how that lands on people? Do you? You won one NBA title with LeBron James. You hit a big shot. And I said at the time, he was as responsible for their comeback as LeBron was. But what's it say when the Cavs were essentially the same when he left? What's it say that LeBron's going to win another title? What's it say that the Celtics were better without him? I should point out that he played for Mike Krzyzewski, not a lot. He played 10 games? They lost early with him, too. You can't win with that dude. He thinks he knows everything. And the smartest of smart people are smart enough to know what they don't know. And either employ or work for people who know what they don't know and help put those other people around them. He's never played a minute for Steve Nash. He's never played a minute with Kevin Durant in a real basketball game. And yet he's dictating terms and saying, we don't really need a head coach. Is there a more arrogant, obtuse dude in the NBA, in professional sports? Can you imagine if Tom Brady said that? You want to talk about a pass? Like, we get this all the time from people when we get into political arguments or arguments when they want to be used against. Like, look, imagine if LeBron James said that. I don't even really need a head coach. Now, do I think LeBron James could acquiesce a little bit more in press conferences to maybe not acquiesce? Could he give a little bit more credit to the coaches? Sure. And I think he deserves an immense amount of credit for sacrificing his ego, changing his position, speeding. I mean, like, look, he's coached to play faster. LeBron wants to play too slow. They're not that good in the half court. They're much better out in the full court. That is coaching. Their defense, their rotations, the people it's coaching. You may think that the NBA doesn't have coaches, that it's just whoever makes shots. It's a make or miss league. That's the worst crock of you-know-what there is. There's a reason that the same coaches, no matter where they go, have a tendency to win. You really think Greg Popovich was going to... Like, there was the Greg Popovich might coach in Brooklyn. You think Greg Popovich, whose rule number one for Popovich is get over yourself. You think that would have worked? Good luck. Good luck. And I will be honest. I think Kyrie has more talent, pure God-given talent as a passer, as a ball handler, as a finisher, as a shooter, as a scorer. He has toughness. He has everything. But he's not smart enough to know he's got to play better defense. He's not smart enough to know what is and what isn't a good shot. And when you think you know, this is the same a-hole, okay, who started naming guys and said, basically said on a team he hadn't played with for even half a year, without their other star, said we don't have enough players around it, and named guys that he felt like they should keep and didn't name other guys. He's inarguably the least coachable, worst teammate of a superstar I have ever seen, I have ever heard of. Other people think it, he says it. On platforms that get spread about like the coronavirus. Good luck. Have fun. Can Steve Nash fix it? Can he find a way to empower him and make him think that he's making coaching? Yeah, like that's the magic to coaching. Right? Make them think they're doing what they want when it's really what you want. That's one of the magical ways of coaching in the NBA. I get it. But man, you want to talk about landing poorly? Oh! And every person I know who's been a part of the organizations that he's played for has said, see, that's what the flat earth thing was. It wasn't he believes in the flat earth. It's that he believes in I shouldn't be controlled by what common thought is, and I want to think for myself, and this is a way of expressing it. Yeah, you sound like an idiot. Just like you sound like an idiot when you say we don't really need a head coach. Of course you do. Of course you do. You might not need some heavy-handed old school ball coach screaming at you and telling you what to do and limiting your creativity, but the lack of coachability is why the Celtics were better when you left than when you were there. Kyrie Irving is exactly who you think he is.